I want to bring this up too because I don't know if it was Jeff Risdon that mentioned it, but it was Detroit Lions podcast, and I'm sure a lot of people that tune into this show know of them as well, and they do great work. Jeff Risdon, I believe, I want to say, could be wrong on this, but he mentioned how DJ Reader, and this isn't anything we didn't know because we've talked about it before, but DJ Reader potentially not being available for the start of the season, dealing with that quad injury he's sustained, and he's still recovering. I don't think he won't be there at training camp. Jeff Risdon mentioned how Brodric Martin might get more work early in the season without DJ Reader being in the lineup. Because he would be the next man up.
Yeah, I would say, who else are you going to put out there? You're going to put Makai Wingo out there right away?
Brodric Martin. And then this video surfaced. And I'm just saying it's Brodric Martin propaganda. That's what it is.
There's a narrative being created.
I mean, look at this man and just working. I mean, this is Brodric Martin.
Dude,
tugging a trailer.
This man is ready to go
with a quad on it. I mean,
yeah, he's been hearing what I've been fucking saying. That's for damn sure.
I mean, no, what it is he took my phone call and I said, "Hey, listen, I put my name on the line for you. You better show up and you better do something this year because the Booner name's on the line. the whole Booner path depends on Brodric Martin."
No, that's not true. It's not true. Not the whole.
No, obviously, I'm talking about the name behind it, like the credibility. I put my name on the line for Brodric Martin. He better show up and show out.
Realistically, boys, I mean, I know that I've been one that's been very harsh on Brodric and his development so far, and I don't think I've completely written him off, but I've definitely had a lot of doubts because I think what scarred me was seeing Tyson Alualu out there. That's when I was like, oh shit, okay, there might be like a long development process here, but he went out, he lost a lot of weight. He's obviously locked in. And I think when you add a guy like DJ Reader to the locker room, that obviously is going to wake Brodric up a little bit and be like, okay, they really, like, if I'm not producing this year, next year, they're going to move off of me, regardless of how high Brad was at my intangibles. So seeing him really take it serious, if he goes out there and he's just able to hold his own, I think that's huge against a team like the LA Rams week 1. And then who do they have week 2? I can't think off the top of my head.
Week 2.
The Seahawks? It's usually early on. I don't think it is the Seahawks. So either way, week 2, you got to be stepping up early on in the season because as small as it seems, like week 1 and 2, those matter. The Bucks. So that's another very talented team, especially an NFC team right there with the Bucks and the Rams. Those games are going to matter very much when you talk about playoff race. So he just needs to go in there and hold his own. If he does, prove me wrong, I'll be more than happy. I think he has a chance, but I need to see it first.
What needs to happen is if he's going to have this opportunity with DJ Reader out, it's crazy. We're talking in July, DJ Reader potentially already out to start the season. Wild, first of all. Let's get healthy here. But if that is the opportunity, and not even then, like if Brodric's going to get opportunities when DJ Reader comes out of the football game, there are going to be a handful of snaps where DJ Reader's going to need a breather. Like Aleem's going to need a breather. Guess who should be the one to go in? That should be Brodric Martin. And what I don't want to happen, and he knows this very, very well too, I don't want to go into next year and the year after of talking to Brodric Martin or talking about Brodric Martin like Levi Onwuzurike or Josh Pascal or these guys who have been here for 3 or 4 years, and you're just sitting there going, oh, next year. Oh, well, no, wait, this year. This is the year. Like, no, you have an opportunity in the NFL to where there's going to be a position not fully open, but you are going to have a rotational piece on a defense that's going to be a Super Bowl caliber team. If I had an opportunity like that, if we had an opportunity to get sponsored and do what Pat McAfee's doing on ESPN and we go on there and absolutely blow it, that's like Brodric Martin going into like having this opportunity in the NFL to where it's, hey, I am now the third man up. I'm now the rotational piece. They are giving me this opportunity. And you know what? From the sights of it, boys, like he's gotten in shape. He got a chef and he's eating right and he's worked. You see how he looks there. You saw how he looks at OTAs and how they're talking about him at OTAs. He is living up to what he was supposed to live up to. Like all of the hype that Brad Holmes drafted him for, that's it. But I'll tell you, that man better not fail. He better not go out there and fail.
You're right, Boone. But what do you guys think this means for Levi if Brodric going out there? I mean, this is the guy that was drafted after you. He's much more of a project. I mean, Levi was a guy that they looked at that could start year one. Obviously got hurt and haven't been able to climb that hill. But if Brodric goes out there in camp, you have Mekhi Wingo. What is the use of holding on to Levi Onwuzurike when you can go add depth to either wide receiver room, offensive tackle, or defensive end? Because they list Levi as an end right now. Sometimes I don't think he's going to be out there on the edge, but I think Levi off a back injury, that's the last place he should be.
He's probably on cut watch. I mean, depending on how he looks in training camp, which we will be able to see that. I think he's probably going to be the odd one out because nose tackle, true nose tackle, Brodric's right there. So that's why he would be the perfect candidate to especially with how he's been working hard, how hard he's been working to fill in for DJ Reader. But it's like the cheesy quote we all know, right? Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. He's not the most talented, maybe not physically. He's not the most physically gifted, even though he is big and tall. But there was a lot of work that needed to be done with his development. But I'll give him credit. He's been busting his ass. I mean, he's been giving it all he has, transforming his body. So you got to give him that. I mean, despite what we, what we've talked about Brodric and Booner's very confident. I like Brodric. I'm somewhat high on him. As just a good rotational piece. And then I'm kind of the middle ground of Lukas and Boone, but we can all give him credit.
I think
he's controlling everything he can control at this point.
He is, but there is a reason that a guy like if you guys let's do this exercise here real quick. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Why? Let's look at the Brad Holmes draft picks. How confident we are in all of them. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round pick, right? Kirby Joseph, where was he, guys?
3rd.
All right. How many 2nd round picks have worked out?
I mean, but before we do that, Boone.
There are some misses.
But the only misses on Brad's resume are the defensive tackles right now.
Name them.
Josh Pascal is definitely not a hit. 2nd round. Okay. Levi 2nd round. Brodric Martin 3rd round.
Okay, well, no, that's where I want you to stop right there. You only named Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal. Those are the two guys.
Are the ones he's drafted, though.
Okay, but like Brodric, if let's take his sample size through every single position group and everyone he's drafted since he's been in the Detroit Lions GM. Majority of those guys have worked out and they have developed in 2 or 3 years. Prime example, Ife Melifonwu, then just Levi and Josh Pascal. So, like, to me, he obviously saw something in Brodric Martin, and he kind of saw, hey, if this guy takes a year or 2 to develop, he has the size, he has everything needed to go out there and do it. Brad Holmes is still out there hitting on a ton of picks. So you can't just take those first 2 defensive linemen and be like, all right, if he drafted 10 defensive linemen and 8 of them were misses, then I'd be like, okay, now we can talk about this. Let's have this conversation. But he hits on majority of his picks, and he's only drafted 3 defensive linemen in 3 or 4 years. So it's hard to say that, but I do think let's in this exercise, let's take his sample size and see how some of these guys have developed when they've been put in positions to be successful, when they've taken the right time to develop. They typically work out. Like Brad typically doesn't miss on guys like that. Like, yeah, with Levi and Josh, those are guys, but guess what? Those were guys that got drafted injury situations too. Brodric wasn't injured. He's just he's got the size, he has everything needed. Let that man develop and let that man get out there. I think it's a completely different situation.
Okay.
Yeah, you watch
I don't hate it.
Pascal slander, right?
No, and I don't want to
great,
like when you look at Brad Holmes' resume and the hits that he's had, you can definitely say that Josh Pascal does not compare to most of the hits that Brad has. I'd say that Josh Pascal is probably just in the middle of that tier because he has had some good moments, made a play in the NFC Championship game, and I think you can see the intangibles there. It's just he's got to be able to polish his game together, and I don't think right off Josh Pascal at all. I think it's another reason why you can boot Levi Onwuzurike off this roster. But, I mean, I get what you're saying, Boone. It's just sometimes I think that everybody's going to have their weaknesses regardless of who it is, and what it is. And right now, I think it's hard to say that through the draft, drafting interior defensive tackle is not Brad Holmes' strength right now. I would say that's probably his weakness. He doesn't have many, but so far, on the edge, I mean, you got Aiden Hutchinson, you found James Houston in the 6th round. I'm not really worried about that. But interior defensive line, I think right now it could be a question mark for Brad Holmes drafting. Could it turn around? Absolutely. But most of the players that hit for Brad Holmes, usually they're playing right away and they're developing. I think the only project that's really worked so far is Ife, and he switched positions.
Well, and can I bring this up before we move on? Where's this?
No, go ahead.
Right here, Stu Boogie, and I think I think Will from the Rocked On podcast, I think I didn't watch the full clip, but I saw him post something about this as well. But Martin had a great mentor, Bugs. I'm not going to go the mentor route, but I'm going to go the route more so to where Brodric last year through the development. And yeah, he got put in some positions. He constantly, especially at like practices and training camp, now he's getting the reps. Before he had Isaiah Bugs in front of him, he had Benito Jones in front of him. Like these guys are in front of him taking all of those reps. Now that those guys are gone completely off the roster, and Brodric is completely dialed it in with getting in shape, he's getting all these reps now. Like he's just going to now, that development just speeds up that much quicker because he's not even worried about Isaiah Bugs in front of him. You're not worried about Benito Jones. Shout out the overalls. But like it's a completely different mindset now. And I think like now you're getting full reps. Like there's no excuse now. It's time to go in and dominate if you have the chances.
What about this? Wilson says Levi and Pascal were dealing with injuries, not talent issues.
Well, at the end of the day, if you're drafting a player off injuries and you know he's injured, I think, and you're taking a risk, like that's still, you got to have accountability for it. I'm not saying like Brad Holmes is a bad GM. Like Brad Holmes is a top 3 GM in this league. But I think if you look at every GM, there's going to be positions that they hit on more often than not. And the one that he's hit or not hit on more often than not is defensive tackles. I understand Aleem I'm not writing, like forgetting about Aleem. That's why I'm not acting like Brad Holmes can't draft defensive tackles. But I think if you look at Aleem, that's been his best defensive tackle that he's drafted. Good defensive tackle, but I don't think he's like a league transcending type of defensive tackle like he's drafted at other positions. So that's why when it comes to defensive tackles, I want to see it first with Brodric before I get excited. I see all the intangibles there, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of huge defensive run-stopping defensive tackles that they're just okay. And if Brodric is that, that's all right. But I think I want to see it first. That's all it is.
Well, I'll say this: if Pascal comes out and shows why he was worth the second round pick, and then let's just say Levi flames out. Let's just put that in. And then Mekhi Wingo, we all like him. Let's say he turns into a formidable player. And let's just say Brodric, and for this exercise, let's just say Brodric does not work out. So you have Pascal, Aleem, Levi, Wingo, and Brodric. You could say 3 of the 5 he's drafted hit. I mean, about 60%.
Yeah,
I think that's good. Like if Mekhi ends up working out and Brodric does, and say Josh,
and that's
Pascal,
if Brodric doesn't, by the way. And
okay,
he does, that's 4 or 5, and that's 80%. You know.